fellow travelers. Welcome to another level of the RPG Cave. This, of course, being the level 115. I am one of your hosts, the level 99 or 199 Dark Lord Ryan Turford. That's the first time I screwed that up since we changed that over. And I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garpland. Garrett, how are you doing on this lovely Monday evening? Good sir.
I'm doing all right.
Just all right. Just all right.
You know what happened over not this past weekend, the weekend before. My laptop started like I don't know what's going on, but every time I open it, the screen flickers and like about half of it's unresponsive. And then let's say 5 minutes later, it works fine. So it has to be open and on to make sure it works. It's a weird thing. And then if I leave it like the laptop physically open, it still does that. So I think I'm gonna have to get a screen replacement on this laptop.
That sounds weirdly complicated and definitely something you should probably look at repairing at some point, Garrett.
Yeah, so I looked up online, like, okay, what can I do? And they're like, oh, there's a screen replacement for this laptop for $100. And there's like a YouTube video about it that's fairly straightforward.
Okay.
And when that gives me hope because I really am not good with this, the electronics and getting into it. I hope I don't break any ribbon cables or destroy my laptop in the process, but probably not. But it's been going okay.
You could have fooled us a little bit, Garrett. I mean, you're the PC dork amongst PC dorks here at Carpool Gaming. I would expect you're actually somewhat good with technology, unlike me, who is terrible with trying to repair anything. Like there's a reason why when I was in high school, Garrett, I got a 32 in woodshop class because I just can't.
Oh my goodness!
I'm just terrible with like putting stuff together with my hands, whether it's actual physical like woodshop pieces or trying to repair anything. That's just not me.
I built a PC once in 2017 with help, by the way. With ample room, it was a nice, overall PC, 1080 Ti at the time, top of the line. I have not done anything since then, electronically wise. I would like to eventually, kind of build like my own, not computer. Computer's gonna probably be way far off, but more like a RetroPie, have my own customized, like kind of PCB board and console and casing and what to put on it. There's just there's so much great emulation software now. There's emulation, but also like Linux based OSs. They're just so cool. These developers are just going crazy with it. So
now, since Rybo's not here to ask this question, I'm going to ask the question in Rybo's stead, of course. Would you name the mini PC or sorry, the Pi computer, the Blandino, like, and have it like etched into the case in like almost like the old school 80s style, like fancy font?
I will consider it if it's not too much of my time, or I'm not, I can imagine things. I'm not very creative though. Like executing artistic wise or crafting wise, I'm just terrible. Like you do not come to me with any kind of design. I'll just mess it up. So
yeah, we'll see. Again, I think like you and I are in the same boat when it comes to that, Garrett. We're like, I'm also in the same way, like not like super, creative when it comes to like building stuff or design.
I'm not handy. Yeah. I like minimalist. So like, kind of the next PC build or whatever. I like to do mini form factor, no RGB, just clean. It's just nice and clean, like a console. Almost exactly like a console, like a Series X. I think the Series X is a great shape. It's just a block.
Yeah, like a literal Lego block, or a Jenga tower, as we tried to show off on the Xbox Drive.
Not the bootlegged PS5 Slim that we're seeing around here.
Yes, PS5 Slim is great, especially if you put it horizontally, Garrett.
Yeah, with those clear plastic wedges in the middle.
I know.
So weird.
It still boggles my mind that that's a thing that works. I mean, between that and actually the PlayStation Portal, Garrett, I don't know what's weirder to me when I look at it.
Portal, I believe, because I've seen so many of these bone Joy-Con stuff. The Switch kind of kind of like made us believers in sticking controllers on the side of screens.
True, but this is literally like, hey, I sawed the DualSense in half and just stuck it to the sides of a screen and just
It's so funny. I love it.
yeah.
So where's the touchpads? Are the touchpads kind of like nubs on the left and right screen?
I don't know. You
I
tell
don't see
me.
them. I don't see them at all, right? Okay.
Yeah, maybe they're on the back.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, this is the RPG Cave where we talk about RPGs all the time, except for when we decided to spend the first 6.5 minutes of the show talking about hardware. Of
Yes.
course, let's clear that dungeon so we can get to the raid boss as quickly as possible because, these pesky mobs, they're in our way. We don't want to deal with them. So, folks, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do it. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now, over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to hit that like button, kick that subscribe button, and then let us know in the comments below what games are on your backlog, or did you add to your backlog this year? We would love to hear from you. Of course, also, if you're listening on audio feeds, you have a very important job as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, because what are you doing if you haven't done that? And also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rating us on those platforms definitely does help the show get discovered. And we would really appreciate if you did that. In fact, we're getting up there in ratings on Spotify, Garrett. We got
cool.
We've long surpassed the ability where it actually starts showing you the number of likes we're getting. But we're much closer in line with the other carpool shows where it was a little bit slower to get some ratings on there. And it's definitely shown because now if you search RPGs on Spotify, ever since that kind of happened, we used to be in like the top 50 search results, but now we're usually hovering in the top 15, top 20 up there.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, we finally, of course, thanks to people's support, we finally surpassed the Alien Tabletop Game Podcast. Of course, that was the one holding down number 20 for the longest time.
But, what is this? An alien tabletop RPG game?
I guess there's an alien tabletop RPG that there's
like they're in space or something, or
well, it's based off the film series Alien, right?
Oh, I see.
I'm not sure how that works.
Okay, yeah. That what a niche. That's got to be the most niche thing.
There's a lot of those out there actually. If you search RPG in Spotify, Garrett, it's like there's some like D&D podcasts, and then of course there's also then a couple video game RPG podcasts, but it's mostly like dedicated, like here's a dedicated podcast to a very specific tabletop role-playing game, which is just the craziest thing. I think there's one out there for almost every one of them. But
anyways, those people are listening to it.
Last job, of course, if you are interested in having a one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic platinum tier. Also, thank you, ScheiGuy, for becoming a gold member, and Nonos for joining the 7-day free trial over on that exclusive tier. So definitely head on over to our Patreon and go check out all that stuff. I'm a little bit paranoid right now, Garrett, because I see people in the chat, commenting. But Sean reminded me that we should probably check that we're live, because on Xbox Drive this week, we kind of didn't miss the first 15 minutes of the show. So I wanted to make sure to double. I'm of course rambling right now, so I can make sure to check it without y'all having to actually see that I'm checking that we're actually live.
I see an upload progress bar up top for me.
Oh no, that's something different. We'll talk about after the show.
Okay, sounds good.
No, you're bad, John. It's fine. We play in the software. Yes, absolutely. But also on Patreon, we got some cool stuff over there. Of course, we got the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast with this week with Seth. He just did his last episode before he's going on break for a couple weeks. Of course, we'll miss you, Seth. I hope you enjoy your vacation. Well deserved, of course, because Seth Virgil, behind the scenes here at Carpool Gaming, Seth does so much for us. So I'm so glad he's finally taking some time he needs to kind of recharge a little bit So I'm so
For
glad we're able
sure.
to help him with that. So definitely go and listen to his last episode. He talks a lot about, his upcoming time off, as well as, everything else that's kind of led up to that. But also Sean's up next. So if you got questions for Sean, throw them
Cool.
out there. And then a new episode of BTS just launched as well, where we, of course, wrap Extra Life and then talk about some upcoming stuff. So check that out on the Patreon on that exclusive tier. Of course, No-Nos can check all that out because No-Nos is on that 7-day free trial because we got a free trial for the exclusive tier. So check that
Nice.
out as well. All right, Garrett, without further ado, let's grab the secret text because it's time to read them, because it's time to read from the secret text. I don't know why I did that backwards tonight. I'm just, here's the thing, Garrett. I got a story for you before we go in. Like this morning,
I love stories.
I like 8:30 this morning, I get this random phone call out of the blue, and it's like the buzzer from my old apartment building that was like 3 apartments ago that I lived in like 8 years ago, with like a package for the current resident. Because I guess the phone number, my phone number is still listed under their apartment, and I guess no one's lived in that apartment since I moved out, or just hasn't received packages since then. So it was very annoying, and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm kind of a little bit loopy tonight. So if I do things a little bit weird, it's because I woke up a little bit earlier than I was going to, because I was playing a certain game we're going to talk about later. So
sounds good, man.
Right.
I'm sorry about
that. You're saying this as if it's your fault, Garrett. It's not your fault, but let's talk.
Maybe it is.
Oh, geez. Garrett, it is time to talk about the RPGs we have left behind this year in 2023. Now, I know Sean and I did a similar exercise to this on Xbox Drive, but this is going to be very different from that because, this is going to focus on RPGs, and you're going to get a very different list tonight. But also it's been updated immensely since the last time Sean and I actually did that. And we only did that episode like 2 months ago. So this is going to feel very fresh, despite the fact that it's a similar topic to one we did on Xbox Drive a couple months ago. But yes, I mean, 2023, Garrett, been a busy year for RPGs. I don't know if you knew that.
Too busy.
So obviously we don't have, like unlimited amounts of time. So we haven't been able to get to all of them. So we're going to go through and talk about the RPGs that either we started and put down and are kind of perpetually on the backlog for now, or the RPGs we just never picked up, and if there's any plan to play any of these games again at this point.
But before we get into the huge list or whatever and mentioning games, I do want to go into Baldur's Gate 3. And your kind of journey with it, it's you're coming into it late. I'm still out of it. I'm out of the loop of the Baldur's Gate 3. The Kool-Aid, the juice that's going around, that's going to sweep every single award, apparently at the Game Awards. So I'm curious, Ryan, how did you like your, I guess, one play session or a few?
Oh, it's been multiple play sessions at
multiple
this point
play
now.
Sessions. Nice.
Over like a 2.5 day period, I've sunk almost 18 hours into Baldur's Gate 3.
Goodness.
in 2.5 days. At the same time, it might be to the game's detriment that I've done that, because the farther I get into Baldur's Gate, the farther I'm starting to feel like this game's just not for me. That it's just not clicking with me. Like at first, I was pretty high on it. I actually made the tweet that of course, the famous tweet that even Drellesh responded to, saying, "All right, y'all were right. I was wrong. This game is very good." And actually, I still recognize that and still kind of maintain that party line, Garrett. That Baldur's Gate, I can see why people are super happy with this game.
Of course,
are obsessed with this game, are saying it's game of the year, because quality wise, I do think it's a very solid game. But this all comes back to something we talked about, as to why I wasn't excited really to play Baldur's Gate, which was because I'm just not really into CRPGs, and a game just has to really win me over if it's in a genre that I just actively don't like. And Baldur's Gate, while I have enjoyed what I played, and it really kind of hooked me for the first like 5 or 6 hours. Like that first play session that I did, where I was like literally on Twitter, I was like, well, 5 hours later, this is what happened. Like I'm really enjoying this game.
Mhm.
I've just felt like every moment I put into the game since then, it's kind of come down further and further and further to the point where now it's just like when I go, especially with combat encounters, because when I get into the combat encounters, I'm just like, it just kind of feels like a bit of a slog to me where I'm just not like,
You're
I
just
feel like
not
I'm
yeah,
forcing
yeah.
myself to play something I'm not personally invested in.
Now, why do you think that is? Is it really like for CRPGs? Is it the pacing? Is it just the move sets that's going on? It's kind of a tactical RPG in a sense,
Yeah.
but there's just and I feel like it's a meld between like an MMO, like because there's just so many skills going on
Well,
um
I would
along with
say,
tactical RPG. So what do you think?
maybe something like that, but I think it's more that the pacing, first of all, is pretty slow with the
Yeah,
with the
it
combat.
is. It's
Uh,
inherently slow
like
because
the,
it's a CRPG.
yeah, because it's more even more tactical than something you'd find in a normal strategy role playing
Mhm.
game. And the strategy role playing games I usually tend to gravitate towards are generally on the more arcadey side of things and less of the
Yeah.
over strategic ones. Like, some we I think we mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago, but Natural Doctrine was a game, like a strategy role playing game that I know didn't review
Mhm.
well, but a lot of people really enjoy. But it's one that I don't really enjoy because it's just just very slow and plodding and just overly tactical.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I feel about CRPGs in a way, where I feel like they're kind of overly tactical. So Yarden actually asked an interesting question. Is it still technically a CRPG? It's on PlayStation and Xbox soon. So, I mean,
Hmm.
yes, technically it's not a computer RPG because it's not on computers, but it's just it's the moniker that we use to describe this type of game. So it's not so much that it's an RPG that exists purely for the PC market. In fact,
Mhm.
I actually think Baldur's Gate, the console version, which is the version I'm playing, because I am playing the PlayStation 5 version, I do
Mm.
think it actually caters a lot more to the console crowd. And I do think there's a lot of, you know, good things that they put into the game that make it feel more like a console game. But yeah, like it's definitely feels like I'm playing, Baldur's Gate 2 all over again, like Shadows of or something like that, which is something I just wasn't really super into. And combined with the
Yeah.
fact that I know a lot of people are actually kind of like over the moon with the story, but I'm not. I don't know what it is. I think the story is fine. Like it's also just the very traditional fantasy style that I'm also not super into either. Where
Okay. Cool.
so yeah, like I'm like I'm curious if I'm gonna keep going with this game, but I do think, like, first of all, I'm glad I tried it more than
Me
anything.
too.
Like I,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I'm glad that I at least played it. I got to see what all the hubbub was about, and even if I don't come back to it, I know that I at least tried and gave the game an honest chance, because that's what I like to do with game genres all the time that I'm not super into.
Mhm.
But I just don't know. I'm definitely not going to force myself to go back to it. If I go back to it, it'll be like because I'm in the mood for it or because I'm hankering for it at this point.
Cool. Cool, cool,
Especially
cool.
because there's just too many other things I kind of want to get to before the end of the year as well. Like we're already, Persona 5 Tactica's out this week, Super Mario RPG's out this week. We've got Avatar out in a couple weeks, and then I've already got other games from earlier in the year that I want to play too. Like
Mhm.
it's tough for me to like justify continuing to force myself to play something I'm not enjoying when there's so many other games for me to out there that I still want to get to.
I always and going through this exercise too, it always reminds me that, oh, I really want to play this one game. It's like, well, you already have a couple of games that are similar to this that's in your backlog. Just try those out first, or at least like, kind of see what's all about. That's with me with Baldur's Gate 3. It's like, okay, I can get the game and try it out. I know everyone's, high praising about it, but I know it's very similar to not very similar, but its roots is coming from Divinity Original Sin 2 because it's
Yeah,
Larian Studios. And so I really want to give that more of a stab than anything because I have it, And it's just
yeah,
like I don't want to. It's the same thing when I see Spider-Man 2, God of War. I played some of the first ones, like the first Spider-Man, the first God of War. It's just, but I haven't finished them. So I'm like,
right.
I feel like I don't really need to or feel motivated to get those on day one because or anytime soon unless I beat the first few games like that. So yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah,
Going
it
to the
makes
backlog.
sense. Well, although I will say about Baldur's Gate 2 things before we kind of move on to the rest of the games we want to talk about tonight, Garrett. Number one, if you are out there and you're listening to this and you haven't played Baldur's Gate yet for whatever reason, and you like D&D, like you're a big fan of D&D, like this is the most literal interpretation of D&D in a video game that I've ever played in my entire life. As someone who's played D&D
Interesting.
before,
Yeah.
like the of course it's based on D&D, so you've got D&D characters and enemies that you're fighting, and it's very much in the world of D&D, but also the way it plays is very similar to playing a D&D campaign. But I think I've talked about it before, like when I've played, like my favorite fond memories of playing D&D aren't about the game of D&D itself, it's about the memories I have with playing with my friends. So more than anything. So that's why, like, I more than anything, also that's not really hitting with me either.
I hear the multiplayer is pretty good too.
That was the thing I was about to get to. Is that I think like this is the type of game too that probably is much more fun if you play with friends. And I just haven't played with anyone yet. So maybe that's something like I try and do before I kind of like move on from this game, is try and play some multiplayer at some point, because I think that'd be really interesting and kind of cool.
You gotta give some potions to Pete, Ryan.
Yes, you got to get that Potions for Pete t-shirt, which, by the way, I forgot to give a shout out for earlier. We do have a Potions for Pete t-shirt, limited time, on the website right now.
Nice.
Of course, it's in celebration of the D&D campaign at Extra Life this year. But yeah, so there you go.
I love it.
But that's a big update from last time I talked about this subject with Sean. Was I hadn't played Baldur's Gate at that point. I know people have been asking, nay, screaming from the rooftops for us to do like a Baldur's Gate episode. And honestly, at this point, unless something changes, this might be the closest you get to that at this point.
And, I know people are wanting Baldur's Gate 3 content. You really don't want it from me and Ryan. Like, it really is not going to be great because we're just not into that type of RPGs. And so just to let you know, like,
I'm going to ask Garrett a whole bunch of questions about Minxed and Boo, and he's just like, what are you even talking about? Are those even real names?
I just know that you can have sex with bears, and that's pretty much it.
You have sex with a lot of things in this game.
That's definitely D&D.
It's something I learned very quickly when playing it. But,
Game of Thrones style.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Garrett, you can also have sex in other video games too. So that's not a real reason to keep me around anyways. But anyways, I feel like we should get to some of our RPGs that really kind of hit. And believe it or not, Garrett, my list is like way longer than I thought it would be before doing this exercise.
Yeah, me too.
There were like many more RPGs than I anticipated or even remembered even coming out this year. So I think this will be really interesting. So since I just talked a whole bunch about Baldur's Gate, Garrett, I want to hear from you. Like what's kind of the first, like, what's your first kind of like game that you kind of regret that you haven't gotten to yet?
Okay. Well, let me first just go off of like what I'm playing right now, like currently, like just in the middle of.
That's good to set the scene.
To set the scene, I am still playing Valkyria Chronicles. I am almost done with Valkyria Chronicles. I'm in chapter 15. It's going well with that. And then I am actually also playing a non-RPG right now. And this is whenever I just have time in the mornings before I go to work. So it's just kind of, a good play session there. Alan Wake Remastered on the PlayStation 5. It came out on PS Plus, and I'm like, I've always wanted to try this out, and this is a perfect way. Especially, it has haptic feedback on the DualSense. With Alan Wake Remastered, it's very good so far. I'm only like 2 chapters, or like the second episode, and I'm just really enjoying the gameplay and the writing and the structure of this game. It's so good. I loved Control, by the way, and I think I want to go through like a Remedy kick, just like go through Alan Wake Remastered, Quantum Break, Control again. I want to go through Control Ultimate Edition and go through the DLC, and then finally hit up Alan Wake 2 when I'm ready. I think that would be good.
You're speaking my language right there with that, because like again, like especially after playing Alan Wake 2 and then going back and playing Alan Wake Remastered, like I'm with you. Like I've kind of been on this Remedy kick, and I just, the only thing I haven't done is gone back to Control yet, or I kind of at some point, if there's ever time, God forbid, if there's ever time to get to an old game like this, I kind of want to replay Quantum Break because I haven't replayed it since
I
I
do too.
played it for the first time. I
Yeah,
want to
it's been a
I want to watch
while.
those episodes again, like all those TV episodes and everything. Like do the whole experience.
It's loaded on my Xbox, so I'm ready to go with Quantum Break. But yeah, I got those 2 games, and I'm still playing Starfield. I'm dabbling in it. I'm not like you know, okay, I'm fully invested. That's not my number one game. It's more like, oh, what do I want to play other than these 2? It's gonna be Starfield, and it's been very nice. I'm only 40 hours in, so and I still haven't beaten the game. I think it'll take a little bit more time. So it's but overall, I every time I go back to Starfield, it's like comfort food for me. It's just like,
Yeah.
yes, give me the quest line, give me the outpost building, give me the ship building, give me the story is yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, man. Like this is a special story and a special quest lines, like factions. It's probably it is the strongest out of the Bethesda games. I'll say that. So those are the 3 that are kind of like in flux right now. So I want to go, first off, one game that recently came out like this past month.
Okay.
I did grab it on Steam. It's a small indie game called Wargroove 2. That came out.
That little game, that little chestnut.
Yes. That came and went. It was 20% off, like the first game. It was only 16 USD.
Okay.
And I was like, of course, I'm gonna get it. I love the first one. I actually reviewed it on Bobby's old Nintendo channel. So that was really fun doing it for him. And I wanted to just follow up and play Wargroove 2. If people don't know, Wargroove is a tactical RPG, very similar to, I would say, Advance Wars, where you have specific type of units. It's more of a high fantasy setting. And you got, regular warriors and spearmen and so on. It's grid based, it's pixel art, it's awesome. And then you can also build units. So it's a little bit more Age of Empires in that sense, where you actually have gold and then you spin like air or tank units or regular soldiers, and you just go throughout the game. I think another great thing about Wargroove, the series, is that it has a storyline. It has asynchronous multiplayer, so you can like play with your friends, but it doesn't have to be all at once. It could be like in rotation. And then also it has a level builder that's like exactly the tools you need to like build your own level. Very similar to like a Mario Maker or whatever. They do a very good job. You can actually make your own cutscenes and your own dialogue, which is kind of crazy. Cool. So you can literally build your own Wargroove game in there. But yeah, that's the one thing that just came and by. I was just like, oh, I really want to play it, and then it just passed me.
I was gonna say, like, I remember when that was coming out. That was like the worst, like one of the worst times
that was
for
the
that
worst
game to come out. Yeah,
for sure.
It got buried. Like, in fact, we're gonna talk about a couple of these tonight where it's just like, yeah, it would have been cool to play it, but it got absolutely buried by the other games around it, kind of thing. At this point.
So there you go. That's my one game that I want to go back to and definitely want to dabble in this year.
That makes sense. I remember how excited you were for Wargroove 2, so I'm actually like kind of surprised you didn't make more time for it, even though I know that, again, it's asking a lot because your time's very limited right now and you only have so many games you can go through at the moment. And I'm making you play these old games too, which does take away from that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, I as I go throughout my gaming journey, it's just like, just play whenever you can play. I don't feel the urge to play day one or feel the urge to like go in there, bop in there. I don't have that unless it's a game that's very big opening, very excited about. I'm kind of just like, oh, okay, I'll just leave it be for now, and then when I'm ready, when I cleared off the other games that I want to clear off, I'll go after it. So yeah, definitely before the end of the year, I'll touch Wargroove 2.
Nice. Well, my first one, kind of a similar situation, Garrett, where it kind of launched at the wrong time because I really wanted to actually try and give these games a chance because I never played them on the GameCube, but I really wanted to try them out, but I never could, I never wanted to pluck down like $150 to buy these games for the GameCube. So I was so excited actually when we got this collection announced for the Switch, Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remastered.
Heck yeah.
Where I was actually like really, really excited to actually be able to play these games for the first time and give them a chance. Because even though, Xenoblade Chronicles wasn't really my jam, I actually like Xenosaga from Monolith Soft. I like Xenoblade Chronicles X. And I like card-based games, especially role-playing games. So it's just like, I felt like these were the kind of games that like maybe like I would probably be more into this than something like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 1, 2, and 3.
Have you ever played the Backlogs Kaitos games at all?
No, I didn't have it. Like I didn't buy I should have bought them honestly when I saw them on shelves for $20 at GameStop when nobody wanted them. Because now they're very expensive. And I learned from the hard way from my mistake, Garrett. And that's why I've just never tried them because I usually again I don't like to play games on emulation. I like to play them either on the original hardware or if there is a re-release of them, I usually try and go that route. So I just unless it's a game that just didn't get localized in North America, then that's usually the only time I'll play a game on emulation. But so Baten Kaitos, I was really interested in them. And I was excited for the collection, but it came out at like the end of September. So Starfield was out then. We had a bunch of other September games, and then it was just heading into October when we were getting Assassin's Creed Mirage and a bunch of other stuff. And it's just like, there is literally no time for this game right now, because which is too bad because I would have probably played it if it came out in April or May, but that just did not happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So. The physical edition, the cover art, it looks so good.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know why. I just love that cover art so much compared to anything else. Like if I ever want to get a physical edition, it would be that game.
Yeah. It's very pretty. Yeah. It does look really nice. But it's too bad that they just didn't have like a much wider release of that physical edition either, Garrett. Like I think it was Play Asia only, like mostly like non-North American territories got that release.
Yeah, Play Asia was the only one. So it's not really available retail wise over here. But anyways, I'm very excited for Backlogs Kaitos as well. I knew it was coming out. I just knew I was gonna wait on it. I wasn't gonna play it day one. I know Nintendo, they don't do sales, but I'm wondering if they would do some type of sale next year with Backlogs Kaitos. I would imagine, May summer sale type of deal. I could see it going down $10 or $20, and I'll probably when I'll hit it. So
that makes sense. Like just to wait until hopefully there's another sale for it. So although I just looked it up because I wanted to confirm this, Garrett, but actually Nintendo didn't publish it. It was Bandai Namco that published it. So
interesting.
It's actually more likely to go on sale than a typical Nintendo release.
Question for you. Do you think it'll go on other systems if that's the case?
That's a possibility, but it is unlikely because I think like just Bandai Namco and Nintendo just have a really good partnership. So they allowed them to do this, even though, Nintendo owns Monolith and they probably get like a certain percentage of the sales. So I think it's a little bit different than when they publish a game from a third party. So I think it's less likely to come to other platforms as much as I'd like to see that actually. I actually think it's probably locked to Switch.
I think you're right because I think of Bandai Namco. They did like Pokken Tournament and like other types of Nintendo IP games. So
also Smash. Like they're the co-developer on Smash as well, right?
Yeah.
Like
I love
they
Smash.
do a lot of crossover stuff together, Bandai Namco and Nintendo. And also I feel like if we ever got like a Xenosaga collection in the future or something else like that from Monolith Soft, it would also probably be like Switch exclusive, despite the fact that Bandai Namco would probably be able to publish it because they still have the Bandai Namco, still technically has the rights to that IP.
Xenosaga.
Yeah. But the games themselves, I think Nintendo owns the rights to. So I think that's how it splits up. But
interesting.
Yeah. Backlogs Kaitos. Cool. Again, that's a game I really want to get to, but it's just like hopefully sometime in the summer of next year is where I'm starting to stockpile some of these games at this point. I'm sure there will be no games that come out next summer, Garrett. So it's probably
it's a weird game. I'll just let you. I played like the first, I would say, 5 hours of the first game. It is definitely a weird card game.
Yeah.
Nothing I've ever played like before. And the writing's terrible, but that's okay. It's just
Yeah.
it's old Monolith Soft, so I
Yeah.
give it a
I'm ready to
pass.
find out. I'm ready to be proven wrong about the weirdness, Garrett, that the weirdness is okay. But,
Hmm.
yeah. All right. What do you got for me next?
This one I kind of dabbled in, but it's kind of on the back burner. I don't know if I'll ever like truly get into it, but I still want to mention it. It's Fuga Melodies of Steel 2.
Oh, that's
That
right.
one. That one came out this year. I think the developer is CyberConnect.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The
Came
Naruto
out
people of all
the
people
Nar
who made that game.
Came out on Game Pass day one as well, and the first one actually left Game Pass as the second one came in. It's a very interesting game. I played about 5-ish hours, 4 to 5. Um, I don't know if you know too much about the Fuga series, but basically it's like I would say it's an on rails turn based game where you
Mhm.
like are a manager of this huge tank. Um, and then this tank has different parts of it. Like you can have different characters kind of man different weapons in different positions of the tank. And then you go in kind of into your next battle and you like face off the enemies. There's different types of enemies like helicopters and tanks and whatever. And you kind of like go through it. But I think the other thing that's pretty big about this is the resource and social management of this game because you have like a party of characters within this tank. There's a like a legit story about these furry animals. And like it's actually kind of cool. It's very similar to Valkyria Chronicles, the setting. It's like a World War One, two esque, old timey but steampunk
Right.
type of game. And then like you kind of you use resources to like spend time with these characters and that levels them up. And then you have to, uh kind of like throughout like it like persona like have some time to like use your resources to like like one character cook, one character clean, one character sleep, so on and so forth. And then you go back out there and do some battles. You go into town and talk to the people. It's a very deep turn-based game. I'm very surprised about it. And I want to go back to it. I have it on my Steam Deck on the Windows boot. So yeah, I wanted to mention that out. Fuga Melodies of Steel, very high rating as well. It just kind of went on and by
Yeah.
that I wanted to try out.
Well, it's
So,
also one of those games too, Garrett, where you might not have ever gave that game a chance or even really heard of it if it didn't come to Game Pass. Like I think
mhm.
that's kind of the Game Pass model at work with like helping you discover brand new games in a way. Like I know like many people didn't even know what Fuga was when they announced that it was coming to Game Pass. So it was really like
Mhm.
myself included. Like I hadn't heard of those games until
Mhm.
they announced that the first one was coming to Game Pass. So I like that you at least one of the two of us gave it a chance because again it was pretty highly rated like Melodies of Steel 2 was. So yeah, it'd be cool to probably hear you go back to it again at some point.
It's very good of what I played. And I think if I went all the way through, I would like rate it very highly on my list. I just, you know, so distracted with other things.
There's only so much time, like I said
Right,
before. Like that's gonna be the
right.
excuse we're gonna give a lot, but tonight. But
So
yeah,
there you go.
that's a good one, Garrett. Well, mine is actually one where it's like I kind of made a mistake with this game, Garrett, because there was the window to play this last year because
Mm,
but I decided to wait till this year to play it. And then I still haven't played it yet because I was like, this RPG originally launched in December of last year on PC only.
okay.
But I'm like, but they had already announced the console version. So I was like, well, I want to wait and play it on the console. I don't want to play it on PC. Like, why would I want to play it now when I have time to play it in December when I can play it in September when it finally comes to consoles? Because I'll have time then to do that. And that was a dumb mistake on my part, Garrett, because I should have just played it
Good idea.
last year because the game I'm referring to is from Zeboyd Games. This Way Madness Lies.
Ah,
Of
yes.
course, the Sailor Moon magical girl game crossed with William Shakespeare. This game looks totally up my alley. It sounds really fun. It reviewed really well. And honestly, I was actually kind of surprised that there wasn't more chatter for this for some categories at the Game Awards this year, because it was actually eligible to be nominated this year, because it did come out last December. And it's close enough to this year, even though we're only talking about games released in 2023 tonight, Garrett. I mean, it came out on PlayStation 5 and Switch this year, so that counts.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
you got to give me this.
Of
But
course.
yeah, so this is a game I've been looking forward to for a while. I like Zboid's games, from the Cthulhu games to Cosmic Star Heroine in particular was my favorite game from them. Like, they're a little
It's a good
indie
one.
studio, and I've always really enjoyed their turn-based role-playing games. And this is one that I was really looking forward to ever since they first announced it. But it's just I let it slip away from me, Garrett. I had it in my grasp. I had the chance to play it. Just like Isildur, when he was gonna throw the ring into Mount Doom, but he got coerced away from doing so. He's like, no, I'm keeping this for myself. That's kind of what I did with this game, Garrett, where I just, I got a little too greedy with This Way Madness Lies. The window was there, and I let it sit by. And now I don't know what I'm going to play this game like at some point, but I really, really want to. Like, this is a game I really actively want to play at some point.
Sounds good, man. I liked Cosmic Star Heroine. I wouldn't say I loved it or over the moon by it, but it was good. It was good enough. I think, yeah, it's a very solid developer. They do a lot of classic classic RPG inspired games.
I mean, we call them in quotations boomer games, Garrett. Boomer RPGs.
Yeah, boomer RPG. This
well,
boomer ass RPG.
I mean, Cosmic Star Heroine, as an example, or even This Way Madness Lies, really reminds me of like Sega CD era role playing games, which of course is just like right up my alley, because those are the RPGs that I kind of grew up on. So that's kind of why I think it appeals more to me, more than a lot of other people out there, I think, as well.
Question is, where are you gonna play it on? PlayStation or?
It's the only console that has trophies.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I mean,
no,
honestly,
you're right.
Garrett,
You're correct.
If they had announced an Xbox version, I would just wait and play it on Xbox. But
okay.
I don't know if they'll ever bring it to Xbox, because they brought their other games to Xbox, but they just haven't announced this one for Xbox. So I don't know if it's actually coming ever to Xbox. But
okay,
that's where I would play it. Otherwise, I'm just going to play it on PlayStation 5, because I have it there. So I'm just going to play it probably at some point.
Cool. Sounds good.
Whenever I have a time for This Way Madness Lies, which I also hear it's not a very long game either. I think it's only like 10 to 15 hours, I think. So
that's pretty good.
It's definitely doable. In fact, I probably could have had it done already if I didn't play Baldur's Gate instead.
That's true. Yeah. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan should have played The Way Madness Lies. What was it? The
Shakespearean magical girl game.
The Shakespearean was it Sailor Moon? That's
Sailor Moon inspired. Yes.
It's Sailor Moon inspired. Sega CD inspired RPG. Other than the Game of the Year nominated, over 8 nominated, awarded. Baldur's Gate.
I don't like the corner that you're trying to paint me into. I don't like this. I don't like it.
It's okay, man. No. We all have tastes. It's okay. It's
okay. I'm glad you recognize that people have tastes, Garrett.
Speaking of taste, here's my next game.
ScheiGuy?
Yes, ScheiGuy. This next one, I was kind of over the moon for this game, and I totally just kind of bounced off of this, and I want to go back to it. It is Hogwarts Legacy.
That was actually on my list too. So, although I wasn't going to go into a big long spiel about it, because it's also a game that I wasn't excited about it when it came out, but it was a game that I saw a lot of live streamers playing, and I was actually really interested in, but I just haven't gotten to it. But continue. I apologize for rudely interrupting you, Garrett.
No, you're fine. I played a couple of hours so far on Xbox, back in, I would say, June or July or something like that, and I enjoyed it. It's just that other games, and then I'm really into Harry Potter. I've watched the movies multiple times. I've read the books. I love the world and the story, and so this was definitely up my alley. It is a template type of game, and what I mean by that, it's very Ubisoft. I would say Assassin's Creed or other here's a template and here's all the objectives all over. Here's all the question marks and check marks, which is fine. I can go through that. But it's very, the gameplay, the combat is just like so Harry Potter, so into that world. And I'm like, yes, this is so cool. This is what I imagine being a student at Hogwarts and doing all the spells like ridiculous and Leviosa and like all the different blocks. And man, I want to go back to it. That's a big one on my backlog list. So yeah, Hogwarts Legacy,
which actually surprises me because I remember like coming into this year, like you kept telling me like this was the game like you were most excited about. So
I
it's
know.
weird that it just somehow ended up on the back burner in this way.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of like I think I mentioned this early in this episode. Day one, I don't really need a game.
Right.
Day one, I can always wait till later until I get like a good, price, or I have a gift card or whatever to get the game, and then I'm okay. So yeah.
Also, this is a game that also resonated with a lot of people too, because like we saw that today when it wasn't on like the game of the year list or nominated for a lot of categories. Like people were very, very upset because they are very attached to this game because they like it a lot. Like there's a lot more people that really liked this game than I gave it credit for before.
Well, is this still the best selling game, or it's very close to it? Best selling game.
Mario and Zelda both topped it at this point.
Oh, really?
Spider-Man, okay. I know is
Hogwarts Legacy was holding it though for a while.
Yeah, it was holding for. I think we just don't have. It was holding it coming into October, but Starfield was pretty close to it. And then Mortal Kombat.
Oh no, Starfield was not close to it. Hogwarts stand over Starfield for sure.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. Well, you looked that up, Garrett. I'll do the.
Okay.
I already see you're clicking around those by it.
I know.
I'll bring up my next one, which is actually one that I started back in April, but I put down because the Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered Collection came out, which I also didn't get back to. That's actually one where it's like I was going to do an honorable mention of the Pixel remasters because my plan was I wanted to platinum all the Pixel remasters, Garrett, and I only platinum the first two. So,
oh right, I remember that.
That was a whole thing. So I definitely want to find time to go back to those games. But the other collection that came out in April, Garrett, that I was like really, really interested to try out because Matt Sawinski will not stop trying to talk my ear off about this series that I never experienced, even though I'm a huge Mega Man fan. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection was actually a big collection that came out in April of 6 games. And this is a series of tactical role-playing games in the Mega Man universe and that I just never played growing up. Like they were on the Game Boy Advance and the DS, but for whatever reason I didn't play them at the time, even though I just wasn't really playing a ton of GBA or DS when these games were out. So I think that kind of played into it a little bit. Like I only really had a very small Nintendo or GBA collection in general. Like I had Golden Sun 1 and 2 and Shining Force and Fire Emblem and the Metroid games. But beyond that, I didn't really have a ton of GBA games. So because I was mostly just buying console games at the time. So I just these just totally flew under my radar. And now they're very expensive if you want the cartridges of these.
Oh, really?
So I was excited for a collection to come out. And we finally got the collection. The collection, by all accounts, is really good. And I started the first game, maybe got an hour in, and then because I played it one night after work, so I was kind of tired when I was playing it, and I kind of put it down, and I just never went back to those games at all, which is too bad because I feel like those are games I would probably really enjoy. I know, and like I said, I know Matt talks about them all the time. It's like one of his favorite role-playing game series in general. And it's just I want to give them another chance at some point, but again, I don't know where the runway is for that at this point.
Gotcha. Sounds good. I didn't find the answer straight, so that's okay.
Yeah, I think we'll because we're halfway through November at this point almost, Garrett. So we'll get MPD for October pretty soon, and that'll give us a better indication of how that works, especially with Mario and Spider-Man, which I imagine are
that's true,
gonna give Hogwarts a ride for their money. We already knew, I think Spider-Man, they already announced it sold 6 or 7 million in the first day for that game.
Yeah, it's the best selling, fastest selling PS5 exclusive. So yeah, we'll see. The main advantage though of Hogwarts Legacy is multi-platform, and it just came out on Switch.
Yeah, that's true. And how
It
does
came
that
out
Switch
on
version run, Garrett?
It actually works decent. It's not like
Okay,
it's not. Maybe it's a Witcher level. Maybe it's that kind of
that's a lot
muddiness,
of high praise.
but it's playable.
Okay,
It's not. It loads a lot, but yeah.
yeah. At least
Anyway.
it's not Mortal Kombat 1, Garrett, because I was a little bit
Oh
worried
gosh.
after seeing Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch and assuming that somehow, like, Hogwarts Legacy, like, if they couldn't get, Mortal Kombat 1 to run on the Switch, how are they going to get Hogwarts Legacy to run it all on the Switch? Well,
I
um,
think Hogwarts Legacy did a smart move of like delaying all the ports. So,
right.
they had the Series X, PS5, and PC. And then in July, they had Xbox One and PS4. Okay, it loads a little bit. It's at 30 frames, muddier text, but it works. It's
Okay.
fine. And now finally it's the Switch version. I think they just kind of learned and optimized like crazy with this
Yeah.
game to make sure it comes out on earlier systems. So they did
Makes
good.
sense. Yeah. And it's probably doesn't have competition in sales from Call of Duty this year because from what I hear, it's selling, but not selling as well because it's just not as good. But,
Because it's Call of Duty DLC,
yeah.
apparently.
Anyways, so Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. I did have fun in the short window I played, but it was just like I just didn't play enough to probably get more into it. But
Gotcha. Cool.
yeah. Well, Garrett, we're like almost an hour into the show, and we still have one more
Yeah.
thing to talk about after this. Should we just? Did you have any more that you want to kind of highlight before we move on to our other little mini topic tonight?
Well, just the three big games that are just around that I want to get to, or at least I want to get eventually. Star Ocean, the second story R.
Yeah,
It looks great. It looks fantastic. So I want to
A
really
plus
try
from
it
me.
out.
That game's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And then Persona 5 Tactica Super Mario RPG coming up later this week.
Yep.
Cannot wait
Yep.
for both of those. So, as you can tell, it's a very busy, like next few months for me because of those two games by
Yep.
themselves. So,
At
yeah.
least we're almost to the point, Garrett, where it's almost the end of the year, though. We'll finally have a little bit of a break because after these games this week, we really don't have any RPGs for this year. And I think, like again, like I think the only
Yeah, that's
major
true.
release after this week is Avatar, which I'm into, but I don't think you're going to play it all. So,
I'm intrigued by it, but it's
yeah,
a Ubisoft game, so I'll probably get
yeah,
it for $20 down the road. So,
that's true. Whereas I mean, I'm just going to sign up for Ubisoft Plus for a month and then play it that way. Just
yeah,
$20.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I missed Diablo 4 and and now that the Activision deal's gone through, I am definitely waiting till Game Pass because
yep,
that game is definitely coming out in Game Pass next year. So can't
yeah.
wait.
I mean, yeah, they didn't tell us it was happening. Well, they hinted pretty heavily that it's happening, and it'll just happen probably sometime later next year, hopefully.
Yep.
Which will be
Yep.
good because I think it'll be like it'll help open the doors for that kind of game because that's the type of game that should be in Game Pass, where they're trying to rely more on the microtransactions anyways for a game like that. So I feel like maybe helping get more people in the door to help build the community and then have them buy microtransactions, I think is the better approach
hmm
with
hmm
that. The other ones I want to give a shout out. Number one, you, Seth, and Amanda would kick me off this shelf. I didn't mention that I have not played Sea of Stars at all yet.
You have not.
I have not. And I should probably do that at some point. In fact, that's the game that's like highest on this list that I kind of need to get to is Sea of Stars, especially before Game of the Year time. I want to play it. I mentioned, the Pixel Remaster Collection. I want to go back there. Just this week we got Wild Hearts added to Game Pass.
Oh,
That
I'll
was a
check
game I
that out.
actually really enjoyed the trial for, but I didn't want to pay $80 for it. So I was going to wait for it to come to EA Play. And it finally did. So that's a game I want to get back to at some
I'll play
point.
with you. Is it multiplayer? This definitely multiplayer.
I think it's multiplayer. I think we can
Yeah.
play it together.
Sounds
Yes.
good. Multiplayer
And
game.
then
Nice.
the only other one that I wanted to mention, Garrett, is one that I didn't originally have on my radar because the last game in this series was a rough experience for me when I played it, and that's Disgaea 7, Vows of the
I have
Virtuous.
that on my list too. Yeah.
Because I like Disgaea a lot, and this one reviewed very well. Like I'm hearing this game is awesome. It's like
I
kind of
did too.
overturned the form for the series, which is good because Disgaea 6
Well, it's not
ran
good.
terribly on Switch, and it was the only version we had in North America for the longest time, and it was rough, man. So that's one where it's like, Disgaea is obviously not, at the tippy top of my list, but it's a game I want to get to at some point for sure. Like I heard it's really good. Like I'm actually kind of surprised that more people didn't play it after the word of mouth for this game. But it also came out in North America last month in October,
Yeah,
around the same
rough.
week Mario Wonder and Spider-Man came out. So
yeah, it's very rough.
that's kind of
for a
asking
Disguise series. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Cool.
yeah, so I think that's going to do it for all the games we kind of left behind. But Nagachaka asks a curious question, Garrett. In
What do you
terms of
ask?
confirmed RPGs for 2024, which ones do you think you'll be leaving behind next year? I plan on playing Persona 3 Reload and Starfield, which I left behind in 2023. So it's unfortunate, but possible that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gets left behind me in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of RPGs that are announced for next year, Garrett. So, like, are there any you think are going to slip past you? Or slip
past me.
At
I certainly hope Persona 3 Reload does not slip past by me. But there's just so many games I want to play now. I wonder how I'm going to be like in February. So that's one thing. Another game that oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the game? It's the Capcom game, the sequel that's coming out.
Oh,
It's
Dragon's Dogma 2?
Dragon's Dogma. I don't know why. I was like, why am I blanking on the title? Yeah, that one I definitely want to get to, and I want to play. I don't know if they did a release date on it yet.
Nope, not yet. They just said 2024.
Okay, so we'll see when that comes out. If that's in the midst of other games, I don't know. And then what's the Obsidian RPG?
Avowed?
Avowed. That's it. See, you're my saving grace right now because I'm just forgetting all the names. I'm like brain farting everywhere. Avowed is another one that's like I know I want to play day one. We'll see. We'll see. I may be playing a Sega Saturn game from Ryan's backlog adventures. Who
Correction,
knows?
your next game, Garrett, is coming from Sega CD. I already told you this. That's even better. Even better. That means it's an even older game than a Sega Saturn game.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. As for me with this question, believe it or not, I think the games that are going to slip through the cracks for me that I'm excited about aren't RPGs. Because
okay.
when I look at the list, like I feel that the RPGs that I'm interested in are like spread out far enough from each other currently that I'm going to play them. Because I already feel like I'm going to, have time for Persona 3 when it comes out in February. I mean, I'm such a big Persona 3 fan, Garrett, that I'm kind of just dropping everything for it. And I don't care what else comes out.
It looks
February
so
2nd.
good.
No other game. Like, if your game is releasing on February 2nd, Garrett, I'm not playing it because I'm playing Persona 3 Reload. I don't care about other games that are coming out that day. Sorry, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. I'm not playing you right away. Maybe some other day. But that even goes for like the only RPG I think that kind of might slip through the cracks a little bit is Granblue Fantasy Relink, the game that comes out the day before Persona 4, before Persona 3. But that's that type of thing where like I still feel like as far as we know of in that, like as far as what we know about for next year, there will probably be time where I can kind of fit that in. But otherwise, Rebirth comes out at the end of February, and I'm excited. Like, I feel like I can fit that in. Unicorn Overlord, which I'm very excited about in March.
Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah, and then there's like big long gap between that and Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, which I'm also excited about. So like,
what's that new Atlas game that got announced?
Refantasio?
Yes, is that coming out next year?
They just didn't give a date for that, I don't think. We don't
that one looked like it could slip past by me. Yeah.
I mean, if it comes out next year, it'll be like the end of next year, I think.
Yeah, the end of next year. Yeah.
But like a lot of the games that could slip through the cracks for me are like Mario versus Donkey Kong or
Oh, that'll slip past by
Helldivers
me. I'll
2.
let it slip past by me.
Yeah, or the Tomb Raider collection. As much as I'm excited to play the old Tomb Raider games again, like I might be too busy with RPGs at that point. So
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
The thing is, they'll always be there for you.
yes,
They're not going anywhere anytime soon. At least they're not going anywhere. Yeah.
yeah. Whereas Yarden mentions in the chat, like if you're at all interested in like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I can definitely understand why you'd kind of be tearing up a little bit because that and Persona 3 are coming about a week apart.
Dude,
Whereas
if
I
you're a
already know I'm not
Persona
gonna.
fan and a Yakuza fan, you're screwed.
Well, that's just Matt right there. So I feel bad for Matt because that's
Yeah, Matt's
very much
done.
it. But whereas me, like I already know I'm not going to play like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, so I'm
No,
okay with just pushing it to
I'm
the side.
lukewarm with Like a Dragon. I went back to it. I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. All right, Garrett. Well, we got to go on a little side quest before we end the show because we actually have our last two questions for the night also play a little into this subject as well. So today, Monday, November 14th, 2023, AD. I wanted to make this as granular as possible.
Sure.
The Game Awards nominees for the Jeff Keighley Awards were announced today. And of course, we're going to talk about them a little bit because we got the best RPG of the year category, Garrett. That we gotta.
Yes, we do.
Oh, I'm trying to size this a little bit better, and it's not working. But whatever, good enough.
It's fine. It's fine. It's good.
That'll do, big. That'll do. So we got 5 nominees in total, Garrett. We got Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. Got both the Star games.
You got both the Star games this year. Nice. Not Star Ocean, but that's okay.
Yeah, not Star Ocean, not Octopath Traveler 2. Like, God forbid. We got Lies of P and Final Fantasy 16 and Baldur's Gate 3 and Sea of Stars and Starfield. So we're gonna talk about this a little bit now. Full disclosure, because I think this is the first time coming up on any of our shows.
Yes.
I am actually going to abstain from talking about predicting winners or anything like that. Because for full disclosure, I work for a company that is on the voting board for the Game Awards, and I am not at liberty to disclose any information about making predictions and things like that. So just FYI, this is mostly going to be me asking Garrett a bunch of questions, and me less so answering that. So I wanted to put that out there. Full disclosure that's kind of why I'm gonna sit back and let Garrett take the lead a little bit on this. But first of all, Garrett, I want to ask you, what do you think about this list?
It's a good list. It's a very solid RPG list. I think it kind of covers the whole gamut, except for JRPGs. There's Final Fantasy 16. That is a video game made in Japan, but calling it a JRPG is. No, it's not representative of a JRPG, I would say.
I mean, some people might even question that if it's an RPG at all.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's still a great list. I know Sea of Stars is also up for indie game, which is great.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3, of course, is rated to take the reins and swoop in and take every category possible because all you freaking nerds just love.
Also, I don't know if you saw this, Garrett, but at the Golden Joystick Awards, they just happened over the weekend, and Baldur's Gate 3 cleaned up. Like the dude at Larian, like the head designer of Baldur's Gate 3, he was like carrying around. He's like, I can't even hold all these trophies because they won like 8 awards. So he's I can't even hold all these awards.
So a few thoughts here. I think, Kevin, said it out first in the Discord. So I just, 100% agree with him. Final Fantasy 16 is barely an RPG. It would be very hard to put it in this category, but I understand why it's here.
Yeah.
I understand why people nominated it. It's just rough to see that one there from Square Enix and not Octopath Traveler 2.
Right.
From in this category, and it's very sad to see Octopath Traveler 2 not in the music score either. I think it kind of got snubbed from the Game Awards because hold
on, don't get too far into that, Garrett. Real quick,
Sure.
Question from Yarden, what do you who do you think will win best RPG, and any RPG do you think was snubbed? So I'm gonna get
Yeah,
Yarden in there before you got too far into the subject.
for sure. Yeah, Octopath Traveler 2 is easily the number one game that got snubbed. I think there's, for sure there's other RPGs that, it would be up for grabs, but I think Octopath Traveler 2 is the one that should have been kind of in there. I could easily replace one of these, but I understand all of these too. So I don't want to say these games don't deserve the spot as well. Who do you think will win best RPG? It's gonna be Baldur's Gate 3. I'm telling you right now, it's Baldur's Gate 3. It's is there I think the other 5, right? Or 4 games.
Yeah, the other 4 games, yeah.
They have their own style, and people like the people that love them. I know lots of people that love Lies of P, and it's their game of the year because they love Dark Souls and they love
Right.
that type of game. People love Final Fantasy 16 because they love the arcadey, story-driven RPG, and then people love Sea of Stars because it has its own kind of classic JRPG inspired game. And then of course Starfield is the Bethesda game this year. So it all comes up with the pros and cons, but it seems undoubtedly that Baldur's Gate 3 is the number one hit. So yeah, that's my vote. Is Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win
Yeah.
RPG category, no doubt.
Nice. Well, Yarden or Jarden in the chat says, I think this is where Starfield gets his flowers. Baldur's Gate 3 will game of the year. That's how the Game Awards work. I mean, it doesn't always work that way. It's not the Oscars. I feel like
No.
the process is very different than the Oscars. So we've seen in previous years it does not come out that like there was the year I think a couple of years ago where Last of Us 2 literally won every award it was nominated for. Because
Right.
that's just how that works sometimes. So it's possible that that might happen, Yarden, but it also might happen the other way. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. But
I think Starfield. I think honestly, Lies of P has a better chance than Starfield. And the only reason, and Final Fantasy 16, the only reason why I say this, because there's a lot of people that have played and tried out Starfield that didn't really care for it. That's just, it was not for them. I agree with them. There's too many gripes with the game. I agree. So yeah, I don't. Starfield's a very great game. It's a very RPG inspired game. It's not personally my favorite Bethesda game, but it's still a very very good, Bethesda game in general.
Right. Yeah, and it's important to note, like you mentioned before, like all the other like every game on this list is nominated for multiple awards. So even if they don't win here, they might still pick up some hardware. Except for Starfield. Starfield is the only one on this list that is
That's
only
true.
nominated in this category. But like Sea of Stars is up for like best indie game. Lies of P is up for some other ones. Final Fantasy is up for music as well as some other awards.
Oh yeah, art direction or something like that for Lies of P.
Yeah, and then of course the actor Ben Starr who plays Clive in Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, dude, I love him. Have you seen him on Twitter? He is such a he's such a charming person in all the videos he does and goes to all the conventions. He seems like a really cool guy. So
yeah. So there you go. And then the other question we got was from Kevin Ainsworth, who says, should there be a separate category for RPGs and JRPGs? I feel like JRPGs don't get fair representation currently. Kind of like, because we have best action game and then best action adventure game. So I think he wants some clarification. But I think, and again, I can speak to this a little bit, with what I feel is that I feel like they just don't do that with something like this because there are probably tons of years where you just wouldn't have enough games to fill the Western RPG category versus the JRPG category. Like it'd be lopsided. Like kind of how some years we end up seeing like 3 nominees for best fighting game because there just aren't enough fighting games out that year. Like
right.
I think that's why they don't want to split it in that way, if that makes sense. But what do you think about this question?
That's a good question. I can see a JRPG category only because there's a lot of constant JRPGs coming out every year, and so I think that roster would fill up pretty quick. That roster can fill up within the first 6 months of the year.
What I actually meant, Garrett, is that the more likely scenario is there wouldn't be enough Western RPGs to balance that out.
Oh, I think maybe maybe he was thinking there's a JRPG and then there's an overall RPG category.
But like, why do that in a sense? Like again, like I'm just playing devil advocate here. So, but
Of
it's
course,
just
yeah.
like, why have like if there's like one really good Western RPG of the year, why
Mhm.
have a category it's that game and then 4 other JRPGs that are also nominated in the best JRPG category is what I'm trying to say. Like I think like that's the thought process there.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I agree with you. I think splitting it, making it too complicated. I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't want to dilute
There's enough awards as it
the
is
awards.
anyways, Garrett. We've
Yeah,
already got like a bunch of esports awards and
gosh,
all kinds of other awards.
every
So
year.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there you go. That's the Game
there you
Awards.
go.
I'm actually can't believe that we're like less than a month away from that. In fact, we're like a month and a
Very
half away
close.
from the end of the year, Garrett, which just scares the
We're almost
bejesus
done.
out of me.
We're almost done with 2023. And then
Yep.
it's 2024.
Yeah, it's almost over. All right. Well, speaking of almost things that are almost over, Garrett, segue. See what I did there?
I love it.
That's gonna do it for this level of the RPG cave. But before we go, Garrett, plugs go.
You can follow me at Twitter at Bland Explosion, and then you can also find me on the Discord, RPG Cave, PC Gaming. I actually just want to update you. I went back and went into my Retroid Pocket 2.
Ooh.
Yes, the Retroid Pocket 2. It's an ancient machine now. It's like 2020 or 2019 or whatever.
I love that that's what qualifies as ancient machines at this point.
The iterations, because they've done the 2 plus, then they've done the 3, then they've done the 3 plus, then they went back and did the 2S, and so and then there's the Retroid Pocket Flip as well. So the chipset and everything in this is so obsolete. Like there's just so
That's
many others
that's
going
just so
on.
much to remember, though. It's
Yeah,
so many letters and numbers.
but I still play this one. Very good screen, and it plays up to, I would say, PlayStation 1 games pretty easily.
Right.
And then I have Nintendo DS games on here as well. And you kind of swap between screens. So you can play like light RPGs on it. I just loaded like 5,000 games on it just because. So
Of course.
yeah.
As
And
if you
then,
didn't have enough games to play at this point, Garrett.
of course,
You
of
need
course.
more. Because as I mentioned before, you talked about this a little bit before the show, but like whenever you want to, you can bust out a copy of Pictionary on the NES
Yeah.
because this game, despite the fact that it's actually a terrible game, Garrett, has a banging soundtrack by Tim Fallon, and it's just so good. One of the best parts about this game is the soundtrack.
Nice. So there you have it. That's my update of PC related emulated stuff.
Very nice, my friend. Well, as for me, you can find me on the old Twitter at Ryan Turfer. You can also find us on Twitter at Carpool Gaming, right here, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globes. So for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turfer. This has been the 115th level of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye-bye.